Okay, I have here completely disassembled for you a Royal Guardian. There's the key. This is a Japanese lock. It is a pin and pin dimple. Um, and as I'll explain in a second, it's got one interesting or maddening mechanism, uh, which makes it kind of unique. So, to start off with the basic stuff. As you can see here, it looks kind of similar to a multi-lock. I've got an inner and an outer key pin right here. The drivers are a little unique. So I've got, for example, one driver here. This one is assembled. And you can see when I flip it, it's actually in two pieces. And I've got one separated here. So rather than what they do in a multi-lock, where they have an inner driver and an outer driver, and they are held together. They're kind of, I think they're fashioned together. They don't come apart without a lot of force, and there's a spring inside, so both of them are springy. This one, you can see that they kind of free float. The spring here would touch them both because the inner driver does have this part that sticks around to the outside, um, but it can't come un. It can't come un. I'm not sure what the word is. It won't come out of the outer driver because it does have this kind of like tab here. So the inner and outer driver are stuck together while this is in the lock. When I gutted it, these kind of fell apart. So that's why some of them are together and some of them aren't. So that's not going to be real fun to put back together. I'll just state that for the record. Now, the unique part about this lock is, again, if I show you the key here, you can see that there is a bump on the side there. Um, so there, in some of these are more than one bump over here, or more than one piece of the bitting. This had three max lifts and one, I guess, a medium lift on this. And that's where this second part right here comes. And I'm going to rotate the plug so you can see what I'm going to talk about here. So this side bitting on the key controls a set of trap pins. So they're kind of jumbled around here a little bit, but just to give you some explanation, they would be assembled in the lock like this. This would be the part that would touch the key, and then you would have one of these little wafers here, if I can get it out. I can't get my tweezers in there. You have one of these little wafers here, and this would sit, here we go, this wafer would sit on top of this little key pin. Obviously it wouldn't be in this orientation, but it would float on top of that. And then on top of the wafer, you have this trap pin right here, and it would sit like that. So imagine that wafer would be oriented horizontally between these two pins. Now what happens is when you put the key in, the height is such that it lifts both this key pin and this wafer out of this hole, and then when you rotate the plug, it would float over this groove here because it would be touching the sides, and the key would turn the plug completely. Now, the problem is that you can see how there's this groove here. There's a section in here where the bottom of the trap pin will fit into this groove. And so if you lift it incorrectly, this trap pin will float over this little bump here, and then when you turn the key too far, it will fall into this hole. Once it does that, the lock is effectively bricked. You cannot recover from getting one of these trap pins into one of these holes without disassembling the lock. So the idea behind this concept, I guess, of this lock is that if someone tries to pick it and they do it incorrectly, you would be able to tell the next day because, or later on, because the key would no longer work, the lock would not turn, and you'd have to have a locksmith come out and open the door somehow, drill the lock out, get you in some other way, and then take the lock apart and reset it. So it's just a straight trap. Like, you cannot recover from it. There's nothing you can do to fix it once you've fallen into it, except again disassemble the lock. So luckily, my format that I got this in had a Bible cover, so I could easily slide the Bible cover out. I guess easily pull all the trap pins, reset them, and then try to pick it again. So. But it was a pain. I probably did this like 7 or 8 times before I got it right. Um, and obviously, if you were doing this on a real lock, you'd only get one chance. So I'll do some voiceover because the video I was not really anticipating getting it open. But I don't want to refilm it because putting this thing back together is going to be a pain. So I'll probably do some voiceover talking about what I did. But yeah, basically I kind of shimmed the trap pins. One of them gets overlifted when you do that, but then I pulled the shim out. I kind of let that one fall, and then I think I had to go back in and tap one of them back up. So, but yeah, it's kind of a, I don't know, it's interesting, but at the same time, it's kind of a gimmick. The top stacks were trivial. It's just this weird issue of the trap pins and having to work around that, which made this lock a little bit difficult. So I think that's it on explanation. With that, we're going to get over into the next section. Again, I have to mute this, at least the beginning part of this video, because there was a lot of background noise and I was not really anticipating getting it open. But I'll do some voiceover and explain what I'm doing. All right, as promised, here is some quick voiceover on what I'm doing here. So first off, I'm going to just double check to make sure the key works, which it does. Now I'm going to insert this tensioner, and I'm sliding it all the way to the back of the lock, and then I'm shifting it all the way to the right hand side. And I'm essentially using this as a shim to hold the trap pins at max lift or close to max lift. And then I'm going to pick the outer drivers of the lock. So my hope was that by pre-lifting the trap pins, I would at least be able to get a little bit of core rotation and get them stuck up either in an overlifted or in a set position, so that I could then drop them from overlifted if I needed to, and I wouldn't end up triggering them, because what triggers them obviously is pushing the pin up and not getting the wafer high enough to block the trap. So my idea here was that I would overset them essentially intentionally, and then I would drop them later on. So what I'm doing here is I am just setting the inner driver, or sorry, the outer drivers. You can see that the shim is kind of in the way because I'm also picking from the right hand side of the keyway, but I could kind of bend it. It's pretty thin, so I'm just pushing it out of the way if I need to. I did have to pulse tension on this lock a decent amount. I think it's because the inner and outer drivers both touch the outer key pin to some degree, so I felt like I was oversetting stuff, or things were hanging above the shear line. And so by pulsing tension, I could sort of get things to drop. So occasionally I would get stuck, I would pulse tension, and then things would fall and I'd get more rotation. I also, right there, was just jiggling the shim because, again, I'm intentionally oversetting at least one pin. And so my hope was that if I was hanging up on that, by jiggling the shim, I could get things to drop a little bit, and then I would get more rotation again. So my plan here was essentially to, like I said, shim the trap pins, and then once I felt like I had lifted all the outers, pull the shim out, and then pulse tension again to see if I could get the overset trap pin to fall, because if it was overset, it would also prevent the plug from rotating, just like one of the drivers would. Okay, so I think at this point I felt like I had all of the outer drivers set, so I'm pulling my shim out, and then I'm pulsing tension again to try to get any of the trap pins that were overset to drop. I will in a second here grab another tool and retest some of the trap pins, because I think that when I pulsed the tension the first time, I dropped more than just the overset one. I dropped at least one of the other trap pins that was a max lift, so it didn't need to drop, but it did. I came to that conclusion because, again, I'm testing the outers here, and nothing felt like it needed to be set. They all felt like they were in a good spot, and so my guess was that I had either not yet dropped the overset trap pin, or I had dropped another trap pin that I didn't need to. So here I'm just grabbing a copper pick because it has a 90-degree bend in it, and I'm just testing the trap pins again here, and I'm going to get one to move. There you go, right there. So there was one that was holding the plug from rotating. So now I've got all the outers set. I believe at this point, I believed that I had the trap pins all properly set, but the only way to tell would be to set the inners and then see if I could get full rotation on the lock. So now I'm just working on the inners here. Like a multi-lock, they are the last part. And there you go, full rotation. That is open. This is open. Just validating, because I can rotate it all the way. That's past where the trap pins would have caught, and I'm going to rotate it all the way back. Alright, now that's relocked. Okay, I'm going to take the trap pins out first. Whoops, I just launched a spring because I got so nervous I didn't cover it with my finger. Okay, there it is. Let's try this again. Oh, that one stuck to my thumb, but you can see there. Okay, there are 4 sets of trap pins. Oh. And then I think this is a ball bearing in this last one. I never took this last one out, so I'm not 100% sure. It's got a massive spring on it though. Okay. So you can see the trap pins in there. Let's see if I can get these out. Can I get the ball bearing out? I don't know if the ball bearing comes out. So I just want to show that there's the wafers, or the top of the trap pins first. So you can see there's the trap pin right there on number 4. And that's where the trap pin would interact with the thing. Okay, there's the next trap pin. I wonder if all the wafers fell into the keyway or something, because I picked it. Oh, there's a bunch of them. Alright, this is a mess. Are they in the keyway? So I think what happened is I rotated this with the trap pin. Okay, there's another one. I wonder if the wafers got, if they entered the keyway in a weird way because of how I picked this, and now they're like, because that's where the trap pins would set, in those holes right there, and that's where the key would push them up. Oh, you know what? I rotated it. I wonder if that's what happened there. There's another one. Well, this is the first time I've gutted this, so other than resetting the trap pins. I don't know if that one's going to come out. Oops, I just activated the last trap pin. I probably shouldn't have rotated it as far as I did, because now I think I've got all kinds of stuff like randomly stuck in here. These are the drivers. I'm 99% sure. Okay, this is a total mess. Now I understand what Jim was saying with his. Different screwdriver. I don't want to strip these. key stop. Let's see if I can actually rotate this with the key in. Okay, there we go. All right, that one key control pin, I'm not sure what's going to happen with that, but let's get a follower at the very least. I'm suspecting that oh, there's another pin that just fell out. What are these? Are these some kind of key control something? Oh, these are the, okay. So I guess there's like sort of kind of drivers that are in here, and then there's the trap pins. So that's those. They fell out of those holes. Okay, so these are part of the trap pin mechanism. So there's the wafers, there's the actual trap pins, there's the wafer you have to lift for each one, and then this is the part that the key interacts with. Okay, so I don't think I screwed this up as bad as I thought I did. You go there, you go there, you go there, and you go there, and then there's one more of these little trap pins that is stuck in here, and I don't know if that's actually going to come out, but okay. Now I can get there's a lot of graphite in here. Now I can get the actual pins out. That's the inner, the outer. Okay. And that's the plug. So that here, I'll do a section where I explain this better, but this is where the trap pins would be. Okay, and this last trap pin, I don't know if it's going to come out because of how I semi-deformed this chamber when I was trying to get the Bible cover off, but it's in there. I just don't know. I'll try to push it out from the inside. Okay, let's get the drivers. So these look like they're all one piece. They do not look like they come apart. Or they're like split. Oh, okay. They're not pin and pin. They're two pieces. So there's an outer shell and an inner pin. And they fit together. Okay. I get it now. So there you can see they're together. But then they separate out. This lock has so much crud in it. This was brand new too. Oh, there's the last one. Haha. Oh, and here's my driver. I'm gonna have to clean my pinning tray. Okay, and there's the ball bearing that goes with that for biasing. Okay, so nothing spectacular in the plug here, or sorry, in the housing. Not really in the plug either. Okay, so here's all the pieces. Just adjust my zoom. Or adjust my focus, I guess, would be the... Okay, so in the upper section you can see kind of how these function. So there's an inner key pin and an outer key pin, and then these drivers are split. So this is what it looks like when they are together. One piece fits inside the other, and then you can push on them separately, and this little tab in the slot is what keeps them aligned. So that's what they look like together, and it looks like they are all spooled. Okay, and then here's the trap system. So this part right here touches the key. This fits between that and the trap pin. So you have to lift this wafer in the middle up. If you just lift this trap pin only, that will get caught in the plug, which is over here. That'll get lifted out of this hole, and then when you rotate it, it'll fall into this little piece right here, this hole that is meant for the trap pin to fall into. So you have to lift the wafer up above the top edge, and then the wafer is wide enough that it floats over these holes. Okay, but if you don't lift the wafer and you just lift this trap pin, the trap pin will get stuck in here. So there you go. That is a poorly gutted Royal Guardian cylinder. My hands are so dirty now. I'll do a better job of explaining this in another video, but that's that for that. All right.